Ever since the manga's initial debut on November 20th, 1984, the Dragon Ball franchise has become a very profitable and recognizable piece of media in not just the world of anime and manga, but one of the most recognizable pieces of pop culture throughout the entire world. Over the course of its current 34 years of existence, the franchise has amassed a gigantic following all across the planet through not just Akira Toriyama's original manga, but through video games, action figures, card games, and more famously, an animated series that has spanned across 4 different shows, and even one spin-off anime as of the time of this video. With 2019 marking the 35th anniversary of the Dragon Ball manga and the 33rd anniversary of the anime's first episode, there's just so much content behind the Dragon Ball name that has kept fans entertained for decades and will no doubt keep people entertained for decades to come. Despite the overall praise that has kept Dragon Ball alive, there are still plenty of people out there who haven't gotten into the series simply because there's just so much to take in. As time goes on, the thought of getting into the world of Dragon Ball can be quite intimidating, and this idea has turned people off of other popular pieces of media. Because of this, I have taken it upon myself to revisit along with review the entirety of Dragon Ball's history and crunch everything down into enjoyable and cohesive videos where both newcomers can hop right into the franchise without the need to watch several hundreds of episodes or even read hundreds of chapters, and veteran fans of the series can enjoy my reviews and connect with my initial thoughts on all these specific story arcs. With all that in mind, this is InnovativeJdawg's Dragon Ball Retrospective. In my Dragon Ball retrospective, I'll be summarizing the events of each story saga from Dragon Ball's history, whether it's canon or not, and will be reviewing them, giving you all my personal opinions on what I liked or didn't like about the specific arc. I'll of course be focusing on the anime since that is the most popular form of storytelling for Dragon Ball, but I'll no doubt be referring back to the manga every now and then, especially when we cover content such as filler. With all that in mind, in order to fully appreciate the story of Dragon Ball, we have to learn more about its creation. Where did the idea come from, and what made the idea of the series so popular? Let's rewind time back to before Dragon Ball was even a thought in the mind of a brilliant mangaka known as Akira Toriyama. Believe it or not, but Toriyama's first claim to fame wasn't actually Dragon Ball, but was instead a gag manga named Dr. Slump. You guys recognize the protagonist of Dr. Slump? I'm sure most of you guys do, since that girl's name is Aurelie Norimaki, who has made several cameo appearances in Dragon Ball, but I'll save all that for the future. Towards the end of Dr. Slump's run, Toriyama began to mess around with the idea of an action-oriented plot that had the same level of humor as Dr. Slump. The outcome of this was a 2-chapter series titled Dragon Boy that only lasted from August to October of 1983. Just judging from this cover image, you can already tell that this short little concept will lay down the groundwork and the ideas within it would serve as the precursor to the Dragon Ball manga. Based off of Journey to the West, one of the 4 classic novels of Chinese literature, Dragon Boy showed off the adventures of a Goku-ish looking character named Tanton, who studies martial arts and goes off on a journey with his friends. Of course, not much story was displayed in these 2 chapters, as Toriyama himself even states that it was meant to be an unconventional and contradictory story, but despite this, concept from the short series would later be adopted into the beloved Dragon Ball manga that further pushed away from the Western influences used in Toriyama's previous works and would first debut in Weekly Shonen Jump on November 20th, 1984. The initial genre for this series was shonen, a Japanese genre aimed at young male audiences, hence the name of the magazine. From that point on, the rest is history. Being loosely based off of Journey to the West much like Dragon Boy, Dragon Ball further expanded upon the idea of an action-oriented plot and became more focused on adventure rather than comedy, even though there was still plenty of that. Dragon Ball would be published weekly in Weekly Shonen Jump, and initially it wasn't all too popular during its first story arc, which I'll be covering in the first episode of my retrospective, but once martial arts became more relevant in the second story arc, Dragon Ball began to draw in more of an audience. Following the life of Son Goku, who's based off of Sun Wukong from Journey to the West, the story of Dragon Ball follows his journey to becoming the strongest martial artist to ever exist, along with him meeting friends along the way. During his adventures, Goku would fight many battles to achieve his goal, with his friends and enemies all having one common goal of obtaining the Dragon Balls, which are mystical artifacts that house a magical dragon who can grant any wish once all 7 of the Dragon Balls are gathered together. Because the storyline of Dragon Ball is so loose and focuses on the action and adventure franchises, this series didn't necessarily have to end once the ensemble cast found the Dragon Balls for the first time. The series could keep on going for as long as it wanted, as there was an infinite amount of possibilities for more conflicts to arise because of the Dragon Balls, and there was definitely room for our characters to become more experienced and stronger through fights. And that is exactly what Dragon Ball did ever since 1984. The simple story of Goku's life, his goals, the friendships he's developed, the enemies he's made, and the journey he went on to find the Dragon Balls have kept all of us entertained for decades, and it doesn't ever seem like it will stop. Many of us have been touched and influenced by the story of Goku, and because of the stories told within Dragon Ball. The majority of us have become lifelong fans of this franchise that Akira Toriyama thankfully decided to create. With the history lesson out of the way, in order to kick off Dragon Ball Retrospective correctly, it's only fitting that we start from the beginning of it all. What happened during the first story arc for the original Dragon Ball? What kicked everything off? The Emperor Pilaf Saga, also known as the Saga of Goku or the Search for the Dragon Ball Saga, is the first story arc for the franchise and spans across chapters 1 to 23 of the Dragon Ball manga and episodes 1 to 13 of the Dragon Ball anime. Our story begins on Mount Paozu, where a martial arts master named Gohan lived. Finding an abandoned baby boy with a monkey tail in the wilderness, Gohan began to raise the boy as his own and teach him the ways of martial arts. He named this boy Goku. As years passed, Goku became incredibly strong, and after his grandpa's passing, he would become the sole person living on Mount Paozu, serving as the guardian of his grandfather's prized possession, the 4-star Dragon Ball. Catching up with Goku in the present day, the boy is just casually going about his business, rolling on a tree log 3 times his size with a saw in his arms. Upon arriving home and karate chopping the log, Goku decides to grab a bite to eat, but unbeknownst to him, a girl is on her own journey to Mount Paozu around that same time. Talking to the 4-star Dragon Ball as if it were his own grandpa, Goku sees the mystical ball glow before he heads off to fish, but ends up running into a saber-toothed tiger. Running away from the animal, Goku leads the saber-tooth off of a cliff without fear, only to fall into the river down below. Getting naked to dry off his clothes, Goku uses his tail for bait to catch a humongous fish and kills it with one swift kick. On his way back home, the girl that we just saw a quick glimpse of earlier hits Goku with her car, sending him flying, which Goku kinda just shrugs off. Never seeing a car before, Goku attacks in order to defend his dinner and throws the car into the distance, only for the girl to try to commit homicide even further by pulling out a gun and shooting Goku. Being stung by the bullet, Goku gets back to his feet as the girl steps out of the vehicle. We then learn that her name is Bulma. See, it's right there on her shirt. Surprised to hear that Bulma is a human rather than a monster, Goku states that he's never seen a girl before, let alone any other human besides his grandpa. Doing a bit of investigating to see what makes Bulma different than him, Goku notices that Bulma doesn't have a tail and doesn't think anything about it, but Bulma only chalks the whole tail thing up to him being a weird kid. Pulling out a little device that scans the locations of Dragon Balls called the Dragon Radar, Bulma believes that Goku has the Dragon Ball, so she follows after him towards his house once he invites her over for a bite to eat. Seeing the 4-star Dragon Ball with her own eyes, Bulma begins to admire it, but Goku takes it from her because it's the last thing that he has from his grandpa Gohan, only for her to pull out 2 more Dragon Balls out of her bag. Goku is shocked to learn that there are more Dragon Balls out there. We then get to meet our main villain of the saga, Emperor Pilaf, with his 2 minions Mai and Shu, who make their way into a dungeon only to find a Dragon Ball. Mai explains to Pilaf that he needs to collect all 7 to grant a wish, and with him wanting to rule the world, Pilaf sets off to find the remainder of the Dragon Balls so he can grant that wish. Back at Goku's house, Bulma is teaching Goku how the Dragon Balls work along with the legend of Shenron, the dragon living within the Dragon Balls, and we learn that her goal is to collect all 7 and wish for a perfect boyfriend, which is a pretty weird wish, but hey, the Dragon Balls can make it come true. Bulma then tries to seduce Goku into giving her the 4-star Dragon Ball.
What do I care about seeing your dirty old fanny? It is not dirty, you rude little boy!
With that tactic not working, Bulma recruits Goku on her journey to find the other 4 Dragon Balls, to which Goku happily agrees to. We then see Bulma use a capsule for the first time to spawn a motorcycle after Goku had destroyed her car. Using the Dragon Radar to search for the closest Dragon Ball, the two begin their journey as they leave Mount Paozu. However, they don't get too far before something happens. Making a short pit stop, Bulma is quickly scooped up by a pterodactyl, but Goku comes to the rescue using her motorcycle to prevent her from becoming dinosaur food. Extending his power pole, a mystical weapon that Gohan gave him, Goku smacks the pterodactyl out of the sky, saving Bulma, and the two regroup and the journey continues from there. Now, you might have noticed that despite cars and motorcycles, along with advanced technology such as Dragon Radars and capsules being present in Dragon Ball, we also see animals such as dinosaurs and saber-toothed tigers. Pretty weird, isn't it? The world of Dragon Ball is a really cool mixture of both futuristic and prehistoric aspects, and I think the combination of the two allows Dragon Ball's world to be fleshed out and be unique. As the sun begins to set, Goku and Bulma decide to stop and set up camp near Skull Valley. Bulma further displays how handy the capsules are by throwing one out and spawning a fully fledged house with working electricity, and this of course confuses Goku. Mirrors, television, and everything that we're all used to are so new to Goku since he's grown up in the woods, and Bulma points out the fact that Goku stinks, so she forces him to take a bath. But Goku says he doesn't know what a bath is. Being forced to clean Goku, Bulma notices that the tail is actually a part of his body rather than his clothing, and that he has full control of it like a third arm. He even scrubs his back with it. Bulma screams and even wonders if all boys have tails just like Goku, but Goku mentions that Gohan didn't have a tail. After Goku's bath, Bulma decides to relax in a bubble bath by herself, but Goku barges in and tries to help scrub her back since she doesn't have a tail. However, Bulma isn't having any of that. The scene cuts away from our two protagonists and we see Emperor Pilaf's castle, and inside we see Pilaf eating a gigantic dinner. With Pilaf admiring his 1-star Dragon Ball, Shu asks why Pilaf can't settle for a single Dragon Ball, only for Pilaf to get flustered by this, causing him to pass gas, which causes him to be embarrassed. Receiving a message from Mai that something was spotted in Skull Valley, Pilaf sends the two of them off to investigate. Heading off to find dinner on his own, Goku finds Mai and Shu's plane, mistaking it for a bird, and follows after them. Hopping after them with incredible leaps, Goku confronts the two planning on eating the bird, but wolves begin to circle around the three and Goku is excited since all this food came to him. The wolves begin to attack Goku, and taking the chance to escape, Mai and Shu begin to fly away in their plane as Goku fends off his attackers. Believing the bird to be getting away, Goku uses the power pole to knock the plane out of the sky, and after realizing that the bird is rock hard, Goku defeats the pack of wolves and brings one back alongside with a single centipede to Bulma, who shuts the door on him. Later that night, Bulma asks about Goku's parents, and Goku states that he doesn't know anything about them, saying that his grandpa found him in the woods and took him home. Bulma tells Goku to sleep on the floor rather than on the bed, but he falls asleep in the midst of her talking, so the next morning Goku wakes up early and finds Bulma still asleep, so he decides to lay on the bed next to her, thinking that there was still plenty of room. He lays his head down on her crotch and, much to his horror, finds out what's different between boys and girls.
It's your balls, Bulma! They're gone!
What? You're kidding me! How?
Much to Bulma's relief, her Dragon Balls weren't actually gone, but we can't say the same for Goku's innocence. Goku heads off to exercise after that whole ordeal, only to run into a mysterious turtle, who he mistakes for Bulma, thinking that she's somehow turned into it, cause he has mistaken her for a witch this whole time due to the capsules after all. Stating that he's lost from his master, the turtle is given some drinking water by Bulma as Goku offers to take him back to his master. Goku begins carrying Turtle back to the beach that Bulma said is about 100 miles away, and Bulma follows after on her motorcycle. On their way to the beach, a bear thief runs into Goku and Bulma wanting to eat the turtle. Scared by the thief, Bulma shouts at Goku to give him the turtle, but Goku declines. With Bulma and Turtle running off to hide, Goku takes on the thief and laughs as he easily dodges the thief's sword slashes. Showing off his speed, agility, and strength, Goku defeats the bear thief with a simple punch, winning his first ever battle. The three continue towards the beach and Goku is shocked by the sea's beauty. With the turtle being returned to the sea, he tells Goku and Bulma to wait as he promises to bring back a gift in order to pay them back for their kindness. Cutting to a dream where Pilaf rules over the world, Mai and Shu return to inform their master that they were unable to retrieve the Dragon Ball, only for Pilaf to get a call on the phone from someone stating that someone named Roshi has a Dragon Ball, so the three of them head off to retrieve it. Back with Goku and Bulma, Turtle returns with an old man on a shelf from the horizon, with the turtle stating that this old man is his master, and the old man reveals himself to be Roshi, the Turtle Hermit. Wanting to give Goku a gift to show his gratitude, Roshi calls the flying Nimbus towards him, and within a matter of seconds we see a magical yellow cloud descend towards the group. Roshi explains that the cloud can fly anywhere but can only be ridden by those with a pure heart, and sadly, he's unable to ride it. Fortunately, Goku can ride it, and this is the first time that we see Goku with the iconic flying Nimbus. Back with Pilaf and his gang, the three arrive on an island with a pink house on it that has the words Kami House written on it. This turns out to be Roshi's home, and the three break in hopes of finding the Turtle Hermit's Dragon Ball. We then cut back to Goku, who is taking the flying Nimbus out on a test run, showing that he's grateful for the gift. Bulma decides to be pretty greedy and asks Roshi for a gift as well, and it's here that we get to see the lovable old pervert that Roshi turns out to be, wanting to see Bulma's underwear in exchange for a gift. Wanting to obtain the Dragon Ball around his neck, Bulma lifts up her clothing to reveal her underwear, but unbeknownst to her, Goku had removed her underwear from earlier, which would make Roshi a really happy hermit. Roshi gives Bulma the Dragon Ball, boosting the number of Dragon Balls up to 4, only for Bulma to blurt out that the Dragon Balls can grant wishes. Wanting to take the ball back, Roshi is caught off guard when Bulma repeatedly flashes herself to him, which ultimately causes him to let her keep the ball. Goku and Bulma return back to the capsule house only for Bulma to find her underwear on the floor, and embarrassed by what she had shown the old dirty man, she begins shooting Goku with a machine gun after finding out that he had taken them off earlier. At Kame House, Pilaf and his gang trash Roshi's place only to find nothing, so Pilaf threatens a nearby alligator just casually resting on a chair with a switchblade, wanting to know where Roshi is. Once Roshi returns, he informs the gang that he gave the Dragon Ball away to a girl, and the three run off.
Hello there, yoo-hoo. Would you mind giving us a little push?
Anything to get you off my island, you blue-faced dwarf.
Hurry up!
Yeah, keep your hat on.
Roshi sneakily manages to put a hole in the ship, causing Pilaf and his gang to begin to sink upon leaving Kame Island. Back with Goku and Bulma, Bulma attempts to ride the flying Nimbus, but she falls straight through, signifying that she isn't pure of heart just like Roshi, forcing her to stick with the vehicles in her capsules. Continuing their search for the Dragon Balls, Bulma and Goku decide to have some fun with the flying Nimbus, so the two race each other until Bulma falls off of her motorcycle and crashing it, causing her to drop one of the Dragon Balls, so Goku notices that it begins to glow. The two of them look ahead towards Aru Village in hopes of finding the 5th Dragon Ball that they need, and they venture towards it. Upon arriving in Aru Village, nobody appears to be around, causing Bulma to think of it as a ghost town. However, Goku believes that he spotted someone in a nearby window and heads to Sherman Priest's house. Punching the door open, Goku gets blindsided by an axe to the head, but the axe shatters and a bump grows on the back of his head. Sherman Priest begs for Goku not to take his daughter, mistaking him for someone else, but Goku reveals he had the wrong person. Sherman's daughter Pocahontas puts a washcloth on Goku's bump, and Goku is shocked to see another girl. Remembering what he has seen with Bulma, Goku pats her crotch to see if there's anything there, only to find out that his suspicions were correct and that she was in fact a girl. Bulma questions who the monster was that Sherman was talking about, and Sherman mentions that someone named Oolong has the ability to shapeshift, and has been taking away the villagers' daughters, with Pocawampa being his next target. Bulma asks Sherman if the village has a Dragon Ball, but unfortunately Sherman hasn't seen them before. Thankfully, an old lady named Grandma Paozu walks into the house with the rest of the village following behind her and shows Bulma her Dragon Ball. Bulma asks for it, but the old lady refuses. However, Bulma offers a deal to have Goku defeat Oolong in exchange for that Dragon Ball. The village agrees, and Bulma comes up with a plan to dress Goku up like Pocawampa in order to draw Oolong in. The bait works as Oolong arrives in a fancy white suit as he plans on making Pocawampa his wife. Running into Goku, Oolong asks the disguised Goku to marry him, but Goku doesn't keep up with the act, giving Oolong the cold shoulder. Thinking that his devil form is turning Pocawampa off, Oolong turns into a handsome man and lures Bulma outside due to his looks. Taking a liking to Bulma's looks, Oolong has trouble deciding between her and Pocawampa, but his mind is made up when he sees Goku peeing off to the side. Realizing that he had been deceived, Oolong transforms into a gigantic bull and Goku prepares to fight him. However, Oolong runs off, causing Goku to chase after him, and we see Oolong transform into his true self just outside the village, attempting to trick Goku into thinking that he's someone else. Running into a pig wearing a military outfit, Goku is led away by Oolong, who begins talking to himself. We learn that Oolong can only hold a form for about 5 minutes, and he shapeshifts in an attempt to snag a girl for himself because he can't get a girlfriend as a pig. With Goku returning after failing to find Oolong, the actual Oolong transforms into a giant metal ninja complete with chopsticks and a bowl of hot soup, threatening to dip Goku in his hot soup if he doesn't leave the village. In the middle of threatening Goku, a young boy shoots Oolong in the back with a slingshot, but the shapeshifter keeps his attention on Goku. Goku mentions that he knows martial arts and that his grandpa taught it to him, so Oolong pulls out some bricks for him to break to test his strength. Goku manages to break the bricks with his finger, and Oolong transforms into a bat so he can run off, afraid of fighting him. Chasing after the shapeshifter, Goku catches up to both his bat form and his rocket form thanks to the flying Nimbus, and after a few minutes, Oolong reverts back to his regular form in the middle of the sky. Falling down towards the ground, Goku catches Oolong and brings him back to the village for interrogation. Apologizing to the villagers, Oolong takes everyone to his mansion and brings them to the 3 daughters that he had kidnapped, and the 3 girls didn't mind being kidnapped, however, since they seemed to be spoiled by Oolong. Annoyed that they keep asking him for favors, Oolong pleads with the villagers that they take the daughters back. Grandma Paozu gives Bulma the 6-star Dragon Ball she had promised since they had technically managed to save them from this so-called monster. With Oolong joining Goku and Bulma on their journey due to the shapeshifting ability being potentially helpful, we catch up with them sometime later on a river as Goku pats Oolong on the crotch to figure out if he's a man. Bulma tells the two that they're headed to Fire Mountain, home of the Ox King, so Oolong gets scared and shapeshifts into a fish in an attempt to swim away, causing Goku to chase after him, but before he can catch him, Bulma tempts the pig back with a pair of her underwear by throwing it out on a fishing rod, and she manages to reel Oolong back in. Giving Oolong a vitamin, telling him and Goku that it's food, Bulma no doubt has something up her sleeve to keep the pig under control. Running out of gas for the boat, the group makes a pit stop and Goku has to use the bathroom, so he pees into the river as Bulma realizes that her capsules are gone. Oolong runs off yet again, and Goku is unable to find him this time, so Bulma calls out to him by calling him Piggy. Upon hearing the word Piggy, Oolong has to go to the bathroom, which is probably the oddest thing shown in the series thus far, and there's been a lot of odd stuff. Bulma reveals that the pill she gave Oolong forces him to use the bathroom each time he hears the word Piggy, and this manages to keep him in line. Telling Oolong to shapeshift into a motorbike, Bulma attempts to ride him, but the plan turns out to fail. Some time passes as the group goes on foot for the rest of their journey, with the 3 of them walking through Diablo Desert where Bulma throws a temper tantrum due to her loss of the luxurious capsules. Through a telescope, we see a blue cat named Puar find the group, and she informs her partner that there's some new victims out in the desert. Now, Puar's gender is kinda weird. You could either decide that she's a boy or a girl, but I don't know, it's up to what you think. Riding up to the group on a flying bike named the Jet Squirrel, the partner of the Blue Cat reveals himself to be Yamcha, the Desert Bandit. He orders the group to give him money or capsules, and Oolong recognizes Puar, as the two supposedly went to Shapeshifting Academy together. Challenging the group to a fight, Yamcha begins to score off with Goku, and the bandit uses his sword in battle. Retaliating with the power pole, Goku seems evenly matched with Yamcha, which won't be the case later on in the franchise, until the bandit uses his Wolf Fang fist to put the boy down for the count. Oolong tries to flee as a fly, but Puar stops him by turning into a fly swatter. Attempting to give Yamcha a capsule in exchange for his safety, Oolong notices Goku lift himself out of the rubble that Yamcha knocked him into, so Goku collides fists with Yamcha and does the bandit dirty by poking him in the eyes. Attempting to use another Wolf Fang fist, Yamcha tries to attack Goku but is shocked when Bulma wakes up from the commotion. Stunned by her beauty, Yamcha stops the battle and runs off with Puar. Bulma manages to get a glance at him and, just like what happened with Oolong, falls in love with him over his looks. Ashamed about his fear of women, Yamcha promises that the group hasn't seen the last of him. With it getting dark, Oolong ends up using a capsule to spawn a motorhome so the group can camp in the desert after their ordeal with Yamcha. With Bulma taking a shower and Goku explaining what the Dragon Balls are to Oolong, Mai and Shu are just outside attempting to steal the group's Dragon Balls by planting a bomb on their bus. Returning with vengeance, Yamcha and Puar sneak onto the bus and overhear Goku's explanation of the Dragon Balls and how they can grant wishes. Trying to find a way into the motorhome, he accidentally spots Bulma while she's in the shower, which as you can tell kinda stuns him. So he runs off for a little bit, and after learning about the Dragon Balls, Yamcha reveals that he wants to use the Dragon Balls to help cure his fear of women so that one day he can get married. Back inside the motorhome, Oolong gives Goku and Bulma a drink that he drugged, causing the two of them to fall asleep, so he can try to deceive the two yet again. Sneaking into Bulma's room, the pig attempts to steal the Dragon Balls along with a pair of her underwear, but just as he enacts his plan, Yamcha and Puar break into the vehicle. With Puar transforming into a goofy-looking version of Goku, Puar confronts Oolong, who has shapeshifted into Bulma, and the two try to trick each other outside of the motorhome, leaving Yamcha alone to steal the Dragon Balls. Sneaking upstairs, Yamcha finds a blanket draped over something on a bed that appears to be Dragon Balls, but after close inspection, he finds out that it was actually Bulma that he had groped, so of course, Yamcha runs off with Puar for the rest of the night. The next morning, Mai and Shu manage to attach the bomb to the group's motorhome just as soon as they begin to leave, but following close behind, Yamcha and Puar follow on their motorbike in an attempt to steal the Dragon Balls one last time. Causing the motorhome to crash, Yamcha holds Goku and Oolong at gunpoint, only for Goku to challenge him to a rematch. With Goku having his belly full, he is capable of beating Yamcha with a punch that knocks out his tooth, so of course this sends Yamcha and Puar off running. Can you guys see the pattern here with Yamcha? With their vehicle out of commission, Goku and Oolong carry Bulma off as they continue on foot, as Mai and Shu check the wreckage of their motorhome for Dragon Balls, but returning yet again, Yamcha decides to give the group a car that he implanted a tracker on. Headed towards Fire Mountain, Bulma expresses her skepticism about the Ox King legend, much to Oolong's annoyance as Goku begins to admire a nearby sunset. Turns out that the sunset he was looking at was actually Fire Mountain, which as its name suggests, is an entire mountain covered in flame. Back in the desert, Mai and Shu are fearful of returning to Emperor Pilaf empty-handed, and their fears are proven upon their return as Emperor Pilaf tortures the two of them by electrocution, but it backfires and he too gets shocked. With Yamcha and Puar following close behind the group, the idea of Goku being squashed by the Ox King makes the two of them want to stick around and watch, but a young girl running away from a gigantic dinosaur catches their attention. Before the two could even blink, the girl ends up decapitating the dinosaur with a blade on her helmet, then vaporizes the body with a beam that shot from her helmet, and she then attempts to attack the two bandits, but Yamcha knocks her out. Don't worry, we'll learn more about this girl later on. Back at Fire Mountain, Goku calls Flying Nimbus to pass over the flames and reach the castle of the Ox King, but he flies too close and burns his tail, causing him to crash into a nearby lake. With Goku nowhere close, the Ox King begins to interrogate Bulma and Oolong about stealing his treasure, but Goku quickly returns and engages in a quick fight with the Ox King. The fight doesn't last long since it wasn't part of the manga, and the Ox King recognizes the Flying Nimbus, and it's here that we learn that he was a former student of Master Roshi, the perverted old man from earlier. The Ox King also tells Goku that he was a student alongside Goku's grandpa Gohan, and upon forming a trust with the boy, tells Goku to find the Bancho Fen from Roshi so that he can put out the flames on the mountain. Goku accepts the quest in exchange for a Dragon Ball, and the Ox King mentions that he sent his daughter Chi-Chi off to find the Bancho Fen earlier, but she hasn't returned, so the Ox King offers her hand in marriage to Goku if he can return with the girl along with the fan. Worried that they had killed Chi-Chi, Yamcha and Puar rush off to make sure that she's still alive, but thankfully the girl is still breathing, and Yamcha runs off to hide just as soon as Goku flies into the scene to bring Chi-Chi with him in order to find Master Roshi. Grabbing onto Goku's tail to get onto Nimbus, we learn that all of Goku's power is lost once his tail is grabbed, allowing Yamcha to hear all about Goku's weakness. On their way back to find Master Roshi, Goku pats Chi-Chi on the crotch to find out if she's a girl, much like he usually does, and Chi-Chi ends up pushing him off the Nimbus only to crash it, showing that she's a girl who is capable of handling Goku's naive and crazy attitude, and is even someone who can match it. It's at this point where she falls in love with him. Arriving on Kami Island, Goku and Roshi reunite with one another, but Chi-Chi seems to be a bit skeptical about the old man being her father's old master. Because of this, she tosses the blade on her helmet towards the Turtle Hermit, hoping that he would dodge it, but he doesn't, so he ends up showing his Hermit Club card to Chi-Chi as proof that he's Roshi. The two kids then ask Roshi for the Bancho Fen to put out the flames of Fire Mountain, but Roshi declines unless if Goku could set him up on a date with Bulma. Turtle pulls Roshi aside and informs the Hermit that he threw the fan out after using it as a placemat that he spilled juice on, so Roshi decides to go to Fire Mountain himself to put out the flames. Calling Baby Gamera, a flying turtle who spins around in the air, Roshi heads off to Fire Mountain with Goku and Chi-Chi. Upon arriving at the mountain, Master Roshi reunites with his old student, but the Ox King gets berated by Roshi for killing people over stealing the treasure at his castle. Roshi then confronts Bulma about the date that Goku had promised him, angering the girl, but Roshi reminds her that the Dragon Ball is inside the castle, so Bulma reluctantly agrees to the date only if he's capable of putting out the flames. Taking off his turtle shell and shirt, we see the scrawny Roshi roid out within an instant as he holds his hands to the side to gather all of the latent energy in his body and charges Dragon Ball's most iconic technique, the Turtle Destruction Wave, also known as the Kamehameha. Using the first ever Kamehameha of the franchise, Roshi blasts through Fire Mountain putting out the fire, but he also destroys the mountain and the Ox King's castle along with it. Bulma manages to find the Dragon Ball in the rubble, and Goku asks if Roshi can teach him the Kamehameha wave. Unfortunately, Roshi mentions that it took him 50 years to learn the technique, but Goku being Goku, managed to pull it off by testing it out on the nearby car that Yamcha had given them. Roshi then learns that Goku is the grandson of Gohan, and the two briefly talk about him with Roshi learning of his former student's death. Because of his background, Roshi invites Goku to his island to become his student, to which Goku agrees. The Ox King offers Bulma and the group a hover car after Goku destroyed their previous one, but before they can leave, Roshi interrogates Bulma about their date. Pleading with Oolong to take her place, Oolong gives into the act and shows the old geezer his breasts, which causes the so-called date to end. Before the group takes off, Goku and Chi-Chi ask each other if they'll think about one another, but in the Japanese dub, Chi-Chi asks Goku if he'll take her as his bride, to which Goku agrees, because he actually thinks that marriage is some type of food. Taking off with Yamcha and Puar still following behind, Goku and the group eventually stop in a town to get some fuel for their hover car, but as Goku and Oolong fuel up, Bulma heads off to shop for some capsules. All of the villagers seem to be scared of Bulma due to her rabbit costume that Oolong had given her earlier, and eventually gets asked by someone who wonders if she's part of the rabbit mob. After she declines, everyone seems to be angered at her for tricking them into thinking that she was part of the mob. Around this time, two men wearing rabbit ears arrive in town to cause some commotion, but Goku quickly takes the two men down, forcing them to call their boss. Upon the boss's arrival, we are introduced to the single most overpowered Dragon Ball character, Monster Carrot, a humanoid bunny that is capable of turning people into carrots with a simple touch. If only he was around later on in the series, he would have been a big help to Goku and his friends. Yamcha remembers the story about how Monster Carrot's powers work after watching Bulma get turned into a carrot and watches as Goku attempts to attack the Monster Carrot. With the bunny threatening to eat Bulma if he does anything irrational, Yamcha decides to do the right thing for once and step in to help Goku once he gets jumped by Monster Carrot's men. Having Puar shapeshift into a bird to steal Bulma away, Yamcha attacks Monster Carrot and his men to save Goku, but Goku uses the power pole to attack Monster Carrot but accidentally causes Puar to drop the carrot. It's getting intense, guys, as Goku, Yamcha, Puar, and Monster Carrot get into a scuffle over the carrot, but the ordeal ends when Puar shapeshifts into Monster Carrot and threatens to turn the real Monster Carrot into a carrot himself. Returning Bulma to normal, the group ties Monster Carrot and his men, and Goku ends up taking them to the moon with the power pole. Yeah, Goku sort of just traps the three of them in outer space, no big deal. Now, you would think that this entire episode focused on Monster Carrot would be filler, since it doesn't have much to do with what the plot of the saga is, but nope, it's actually in the manga, and I think it's beautiful. Continuing on their adventure, Bulma and Oolong tell each other the wishes that they plan on making after getting all 7 Dragon Balls, with the two of them arguing over what they want granted. Over in Emperor Pilaf's castle, Maya's threatened to fix the Dragon Radar that Pilaf is in possession of, and she manages to detect a nearby Dragon Ball, but it turns out to be the one that they already have. A robotic bird flies in and informs the group that the remaining 6 Dragon Balls are headed towards them, so Pilaf sends Maya and Shu off to retrieve them. Back with our heroes, Oolong and Bulma are still arguing over their wishes as the pig tries to tell her to change it. While the two are distracted, Shu destroys the hover car with a rocket from his Pilaf machine and steals Bulma's briefcase containing the Dragon Balls, her capsules, and even some of her clothing. Goku chases after Shu and Maya but stumbles upon the robotic suit that Shu had used and abandoned. Thinking that it was a person and believing that it was dead, Goku returns to the group empty-handed. With Bulma saddened at the loss of the Dragon Balls, Goku reveals that he still has the 4-star Dragon Ball in his possession, meaning that the thieves couldn't grant their wish without it. Yamcha offers to give the group a ride after the Dragon Balls, and Bulma uses the Dragon Radar to make sure that they're headed in the right direction after the thieves. After discovering that they only have 6 Dragon Balls, Pilaf and his gang begin to freak out, but fortunately for them, the group eventually ends up at Pilaf's castle to retrieve the other 6 Dragon Balls, and he places them all in a trap. Pillars shoot out of the ground in an attempt to kill the group, and Bulma almost becomes a victim, but Yamcha manages to save her, so walls rise around the group, trapping them all in place in this sealed prison. Both Goku and Yamcha attempt to break out of the trap, but their attacks are no match for the wall as they are unable to break it. Pilaf contacts the group and tells them to hand over the 4-star Dragon Ball, but Bulma begins to make fun of the Emperor. Flustered at her, Pilaf sends Machine Claws to take Bulma away and attempts to torture her, but it turns out that all he was doing was trying to scare her into giving him the ball, so he blows a kiss towards her and drops her back in the prison with the rest of her friends. Pilaf then releases a sleeping gas named Yellow Number 3 into the sealed room, forcing them all to fall asleep, but forgetting to put on a gas mask to conduct a search on them, Pilaf falls asleep, victim to his own gas. Maya and Shu walk into the room with gas masks on to search the group, group and find the Dragon Ball attached to Goku. With all 7 Dragon Balls in their possession, Pilaf and his gang head outside to summon the Eternal Dragon, sleeping within the Dragon Balls. Knowing the Pilaf gang and how silly they are, they of course left the room to the prison open, allowing Goku and his friends to escape and stumble upon the baddies before they can summon the dragon. Goku and his friends chase after Pilaf and his gang, but stumble into a pinball machine that Pilaf had built into his castle. The pinball chases them around the castle until they arrive back in the same room that they started in. Goku uses the Kamehameha wave to blast a tiny hole in the wall that's only big enough for Puar and Oolong to shapeshift into bats and fly through to try and stop the Pilaf gang from summoning the dragon. Meanwhile, Pilaf places the 7 Dragon Balls into a specific pattern and summons the dragon within the Dragon Balls, so the sky turns black and a beam of light shoots into the sky from the Dragon Balls with the body of a dragon slowly revealing itself. Revealing himself to be named Shenron, the dragon waits for Pilaf to make his wish, but the little emperor appears to be too nervous to wish for himself to become the ruler of the planet. Goku continues to try and break out of the prison as Oolong rushes towards the dragon and takes the chance to steal Pilaf's wish by making his own. What did he wish for? Why, the world's most comfortable pair of underwear, of course. Making his wish, Oolong's thirst for ladies' underwear ended up saving the planet as Shenron disappears back into the Dragon Balls that float back up into the sky and disperse in 7 different directions around the Earth where they will turn to stone and wait for 1 year until they can be found once again. Emperor Pilaf orders for the pig to become his dinner, and Shu calls in a pack of dogs to attack the group. As Goku and Yamcha fight off the dogs, Mai and Shu capture all of them, only for our heroes to end up in yet another prison. However, this prison is a bit different, as it's made of 3 solid feet of steel, and Pilaf plans on frying them all with the sun in the morning. With the group stuck in this steel prison for the night, everyone notices that a full moon is out, and Goku informs everyone that a terrible monster comes out on a full moon. We then learn that Goku's grandpa Gohan was trampled to death by the gigantic monster that came about from the full moon. Putting the pieces together, Goku's friends begin to look at Goku with fear as they question if he looked at the full moon that night, to which Goku can't remember. With his tail wiggling, Goku stares up at the full moon and transforms into a gigantic beast, a great ape if you would, and his transformation horrifies his friends but thankfully causes the prison to break, allowing the group to escape. Becoming the gigantic ape known as the Yuzaru, Goku begins to destroy Pilaf's castle, waking up Pilaf and his gang. Mai and Shu attempt to throw objects at the giant ape, but despite this, Goku continues to destroy the castle and chase the trio. Arriving at an airplane, Pilaf and his gang attempt to escape as Yamcha, Oolong, Puar, and Bulma flee from the castle. Spraining her ankle, Bulma trips and Yamcha is able to overcome his fear of women in order to help her, and Pilaf and his gang begin to shoot Goku like a scene out of a King Kong movie, but the bullets prove to have no effect on Goku. Pilaf shoots a heat-seeking missile towards the beast, knocking him into the ground, but in order to check if he's dead, the Pilaf gang get out of their airplane to get a closer look, but Pilaf's temper tantrum over the loss of his castle causes Goku to wake up with them right next to him. The Pilaf gang attempts to escape yet again, but Goku tosses a tower at the plane, causing it to crash. With the rubble of another tower falling on top of Bulma, Yamcha helps her out but are then chased by Goku, who doesn't recognize any of his friends. The beast picks Bulma up and licks her, intending on eating her, but thankfully Puar remembers Goku's weakness as his tail, so Yamcha uses his Wolf-Fang fist to break apart of the castle and turn the rubble into a sword. Yamcha attempts to slice Goku's tail off, but the sword shatters instead, forcing Puar to turn into a pair of scissors and cut the tail off, which I think should have been the first option. Dropping Bulma and shrinking back into his normal form, Goku is left naked and unconscious as everyone agrees not to tell Goku that he was the one who killed his grandfather, for it would break his heart to find out. Oolong questions if Goku is an alien or something, which, who knows, but for now, Goku returns to his normal self with no recollection of the night before, and Oolong gives the boy his pants as Yamcha and Bulma connect after their wishes for a perfect boyfriend and cure for a fear of women can't be granted. After retrieving his power pole from Pilaf's castle, Goku is given the Dragon Radar by Bulma so that he can retrieve his grandpa's 4-star Dragon Ball within 1 year when the Dragon Balls return to their magical forms. The group decides to part ways once their journey is complete as Yamcha and Bulma, now boyfriend and girlfriend, embark for the city with Puar and Oolong tagging along. Goku leaves his friends to travel to Master Roshi's island so he can continue his martial arts training with his grandpa's former master, but don't worry, despite these friends separating from one another, the journey does not end here. This is just the beginning. With that, the Emperor Pilaf Saga comes to a close. With my breakdown for the entire Emperor Pilaf Saga coming to a close for those who wanted to revisit the story or are just hearing it for the first time, I thought it was really fun revisiting the story arc where everything began. I originally got into Dragon Ball through the first Budokai game, so I started the story off with Dragon Ball Z, and came back to Dragon Ball later through the manga when I was a little older. Revisiting the saga now, there was a lot of weird and random events that even made a lifelong Dragon Ball fan such as myself raise my eyebrow every now and then. Especially the whole piggy thing that makes Oolong go to the bathroom, and Monster Carrot casually being trapped on the moon, along with Emperor Pilaf just passing gas. For those who are used to the action and violence of Dragon Ball Z, or even the latter parts of the original Dragon Ball, watching this first story arc gives you a vibe that may not interest you, but you could tell that Akira Toriyama was trying to adopt his comedy from Dr. Slump into this new series. Thankfully, martial arts became a much more primary focus in the story arcs after the Emperor Pilaf Saga, and comedy balanced itself out with the action, which I personally think fits Dragon Ball even though the comedy really is something special and unique to Toriyama. For the first story arc in a long franchise, the Emperor Pilaf Saga is no doubt one of the arcs with not a whole lot of content in it, but I think it being driven by the linear story of Goku and Bulma's journey to find the Dragon Balls allowed it to be straightforward from start to finish. The storyline of these two meeting has become very iconic and is one of Dragon Ball's most important moments, so it makes sense that the only place Dragon Ball could go after the saga was upwards in terms of quality, action, and humor, as the world had plenty of room to be established and expanded upon. The filler in this arc was pretty low, as the filler we saw was just a few extra scenes that had no big impact on the overall story, such as Goku chasing the saber-toothed tiger off of the side of the cliff, or his fight with the Ox King. I had a lot of fun revisiting this story arc, and that's exactly what this arc was meant to be. Fun. It's not meant to be grand scale or anything like future Dragon Ball arcs, but instead, Toriyama took time to set up these characters and give them identifiable traits that permanently stuck to their characters, yet kept room for development later on down the line. The Emperor Pilaf Saga self-contained story could have easily marked the end of Dragon Ball, but thankfully Toriyama decided to continue his plans for this story, and in the next story arc, Dragon Ball truly began to bloom into something special. Anyways everyone, that's my first video for my Dragon Ball retrospective, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Make sure to stick around for my second video focusing on the 21st World Martial Arts Tournament saga, where we'll be introduced to many more new characters and an entirely new story. So thank you all so very much for watching, and if you're interested in my Dragon Ball content, make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to my channel, and share me with your friends. What did you personally think about the Emperor Pilaf Saga? Would you change anything about it, and what would you rate it? Leave your comments down below so we can have a discussion. Until my next retrospective, I'll see all of you in my next video. Later everyone.